Welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Hartley. This podcast exists to equip and inspire your heart-centered leadership. Every week, we bring interviews with some of the greatest heart sets and mindsets on the planet. I hope the heartprint of our time spent together is that it creates new possibilities for you and all those you come into contact with. If you'd like to explore what we could make possible for you, then head to abty.co.uk/connect and book in a free 30-minute call to begin our journey together. I just want to express a huge amount of gratitude to our sponsors, Exhale Coffee. I have been a big fan of Exhale Coffee since meeting Alex and the team back in 2022. Exhale is the first coffee to be sourced, roasted and lab tested specifically to maximize its antioxidant and anti-inflammatory potency. An independent lab test has shown that 1 cup of Exhale Coffee has the same antioxidant power as 1.8 kilos of blueberries or 55 oranges. I'm a huge fan, and Mrs. H loves the decaf, especially because she knows that Exhale use the mountain water decaffeination process, which uses only pure glacial water from the highest mountain in Mexico and no nasty chemicals. Simply head to exhalecoffee.com/ABTY for your special offer. And lastly, before I introduce this week's guest, please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It would really help us leave a greater heartprint on this world. On episode 280, what an honour it is to bring Dane Muller to the podcast. Dane is the heart-led man behind Heartled Warriors. I came across the incredible work of Heartled Warriors through a friend who shared one of their videos to their story. It is safe to say I was deeply moved by what I saw. Heartled Warriors are all about connecting men and women to their heart, their inner warrior. Dane and his wife Nadine, they work with couples, men and women individually, and in this conversation we talk more about Dane's journey around masculinity and his incredible men's work retreats and his new coaching program, Compass. This is an incredible conversation. It's not for the faint-hearted, but it will create heart-led warriors. Please do share this conversation with a man whose heart you wish to stoke. And here we go, it's episode 280 with Dane Muller. Dane, welcome to Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. How are you, brother?
Very well, thank you, mate. Please, thank you for having me, mate. Appreciate it. Appreciate the invite to have the chat.
Oh man, like you can see I have a heart on my chest and my logo here, Always Better Than Yesterday. And when I see another heart-led brother out there, it's just like, man, like I think there's some power when we just bring people together from a heart-led perspective, particularly men. And
hugely, mate. I'm just body full of goosebumps as soon as you started speaking about that, mate. So yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. I think anything done from a heart-led space is pivotal and powerful.
I was listening to, this might go deep quite quickly, but I was listening to one of your podcasts the other day, and is that you share this belief that everything begins and ends in love. And it's like, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, I haven't always been this loving and serving wholeheartedly, and I reflect on it, and it's something I've shared in most of my podcasts, is this one-liner from Dr. Gary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Languages, that's kind of haunted me. And it basically says this. It says, for all the love that we do not receive as children, we become adults that seek that in the world. So it did begin with love for me. I was just seeking a lot of it in the world.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, as in adults, coming from, I guess, and it doesn't matter if you've had a fantastic childhood or not, there is always trauma there for someone. There's always something. And yeah, both my wife and I firmly believe that everything comes from a place of love. And for an example, it is, say you're a parent or just your parents. They tell their children, they get angry because they've done something and hurt themselves. I've told you time and time again not to do that. Yeah. And they get angry, but it comes from a place of love because they don't want them to be hurt. So it comes across as anger. So it is, everything starts and finishes with love. I'm such a firm believer in that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've with Always Better Than Yesterday, I initially started working with leaders, purely leaders, and I think, you know, whether it was me personally, my frequency or my message, that 90% of my clients would have been women, right? The men were not volunteering themselves very quickly to become heart-centered leaders, particularly in corporate, right? I got my background's in policing, you know, severely judged by
Yeah.
senior leaders. And I know your old man was as a police officer, and
Mm.
that heart stuff, I think I represented something that a generation have been conditioned out of. So I was a bit of an alien. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I was the physical
definitely.
manifestation of vulnerability for them while I was talking about all this stuff. But over the last 18 months, something's happened where men have been coming and seeking my counsel, seeking my wisdom. So I've been, I believe, pulled into some of the men's space, like by accident. Like I say
Yep.
by accident, by
Or
divine, yeah, or by divine
divine
intervention.
timing. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel that. You know, it's not something I would have sat here at the beginning of my business and thought, do you know what? I'm going to set up a men's group. I'm going to do some men's work. I'm going to speak to
Yeah.
some of the world's leading men's workers. Like, didn't imagine that, but here we are. We're having this conversation, and I'd love to know kind of your path into this stuff. Is it similar? Like, take us back.
So yeah, I this this is something that wasn't in my conscious awareness
Hmm.
for a lot of my life. I grew up small country town, moved to the Gold Coast in Queensland, in Australia, which is a beautiful surfside town, and was a great young sports person.
Mm.
I thought the sporting avenue. I was a rugby league player, and I grew up playing rugby league, and it looked for a little while that could possibly be a career path for me.
Hmm.
So all my eggs in that basket, and then that didn't quite work out. And at the age of 18, when you're out of school, I didn't go to uni. Uni wasn't part of my journey. I needed a job. So I got a trade, went into the building industry I was in that for about 15, 16 years, owned company. Um, so, so leading or doing things for myself was always a part of what I did. I
Mm.
didn't want to work for someone, or I wanted to work in a position where I got to lead others in whatever industry that was in, though at the time that was the wrong industry for me.
Mm.
And I was, for a lot of my life, from 8 years old, I dealt with or lived with suicidal ideation within my
Mm.
life. Um, it wasn't so much of the I wanted to kill myself. I just thought the world would be a better place without,
Mm.
because there were so many like the mistakes that I thought I was making. Thought I was letting people down because I didn't
Mm.
have football as a career path, and so many people, father, mother, were like, "Yep," and I felt like I let them down, let myself
Mm.
down. So that was
Mm.
a huge part of it. Coming into marriage and children, had all the labels given to me with depression and anxiety, and medicated for some time as well. And it all came to a point of, again, divine intervention.
Mm.
The birth of my second son was a huge catalyst to change for my wife and I. It
Mm.
was an extremely traumatic birth, so much in fact that I was positive that I was walking out of there without my wife and without my son.
Mm.
It was pretty full on. Something I I know is an absolute blessing for me now because it helped us change.
Yeah.
Um, I was project managing for a huge construction company on the Gold Coast. So you're looking after anywhere from $15 to $20 million worth of work, and just the pressures of that type of job are huge.
Mm.
And I was getting emails and things the day my son was born, and we were celebrating because we'd just been through this experience and he was alive. So we're like, Saturday, I'm answering emails and calls and things like that, and
Mm.
I was stressed and wasn't enjoying that part of the birth. And my wife's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I hate this.
Mm.
I can't do this anymore. I hate this. This is not. I'm not happy in this job."
Mm.
And she was like, "Quit." And literally, this weight got lifted from my shoulders because I had the permission piece. Because like your wife and your children, they're who you're providing for, right?
Yeah.
So to have that permission from my wife of like, you don't need to do this to provide for us. You can find something to be happy with and provide for us. I was just like, so I did that, and I ended up applying for the police as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to. I knew serving was. I mean, we're all here to serve. I just wanted to serve in some way,
Yeah.
and did that. But along the way, I actually got a offer to go into child protection. in investigations, which was a really defining moment for me because I had finally found some purpose for myself. I felt like I was making a difference. And then lots of other things happening. I still was struggling with my mental health and all these bits and pieces. And then we were struggling in our marriage, my wife and I. We were to the point of nearly we were going to go our separate ways. So much love, so much of everything that we wanted us to go together, but we just couldn't find a way to keep it together because we had my father was recently diagnosed with cancer. Her dad was passing. There's so many outside influences on us that just added to the pressure. And then we decided to remove ourselves from the environment where we're living. We sold up. We bought a caravan and we started traveling in Australia. And I used to say we started that to find ourselves. I truly believe no one's ever lost. We left to originally find ourselves, but it was to create ourselves, create what was supposed to be for us. And we were already I'd been seeing psychs and professional help for a few years before that. So we were into the development. My wife definitely took the lead in that area. So we just fell in love with the holistic approach to self-development, and we just dove into it, as much of it as possible. First, we're doing it together because that's how we thought we would help our marriage, though we soon realized it was our outside problems from childhood that were causing these bust-ups. So yes, started doing that. And in one of the programs or some training that I was doing, they actually brought some men's work into the room. I hadn't experienced any of it before, and I was just like, I'm full of goosebumps talking about it because this is such a huge part of my life and huge pivotal moment. And I got to experience this men's work, and I had this release, and it was just this feeling of relief, feeling of freedom from myself, and so much connection to myself at the same time. And it was right at that moment I just said, I have to provide this work for everyone, every man, so they can feel this way. It would be a disservice of me to not provide this, to not show other men this, so they could feel this way too. And 6 weeks later, we had our first retreat.
Wild. We can't overlook the fact that you can now boil a story down into 5 minutes. Like, that's some lived experience, man. Like there's,
it is. Oh, and there's a lot more. There's a lot more intertwined with it as well. So
yeah, you know, our audience will be familiar with the work of Bruce Lipton, of Neil Donald Walsh. We've been fortunate enough to have them wonderful people on the podcast, and it just sounds like you're living out some of those things. You know, the creation of our identity and who we say we are, the rewriting of programming, and like, there's so many similarities between our stories, brother. Like for me, like my growing up programming was that the men in my life don't stick around. Like, you know, those that love me, those, you know,
which is common,
right? The men don't stick around, and then I get to a point where I've got a conscious desire to want to be the best father I possibly can be, mixed with the shadow darkness programming of, you know, 2019 almost became that where I didn't stick around either.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, for the divine intervention and grace, I had a Christ consciousness moment in 2019, which just transformed me from the inside out. And I've been on a path trying to figure what that out was, you know, trying to live in harmony with that since. But yeah, I think it's powerful when we get those interventions. And you know, what was it for you? Is there something that was said in that room, an activity that they took you through? Like, what really was the final thing where you got your heart cracked open?
So there was a few steps along that way, and it really did involve a lot around the training I was in, because we had this company, the Heartled Warriors, Muller coaching, mentoring, and we had people, other facilitators and coaches and mentors working for us at the time, and I was just in the back end looking after accounts and things like that until I got some, and then I jump on the team meetings and stuff, and they were using this language and talking about processes and stuff, and I didn't know what they were, and I'm like, okay, if I need to go do some of this so I can actually know what we're talking about. And still by this time, because I had seen my wife go through these programs and knew what it involved, I was still really scared. I was like, oh, am I going to be able to go there? Like, and I remember my wife going, asking me to sign up for the second stage of this. I'm like, let's just see if I can do what's needed to be done for this first process. And I got there, and within the first 15 minutes, there was a few things that were said and done. I can't quite remember exactly what was happening, but they just aligned with how I felt at the time. And I messaged her. I said to her, I said, because I was there for her, there for the company, and maybe me a little bit too. But that moment, I've just gone, oh no, I messaged. I said, yeah, but I'm doing the next stage. I said, I'm not here for you. I'm not here for the company. I'm here for me. So that was the first part, but it was just the somatic release.
Yeah.
The particular moment, it was a release of we did a raw. And it was in front of a classroom of 80 odd people, and 90% of them being women. So the men's work we did was in front of women. It was only 5-10 minutes of men's work, and that's why we involve women in our men's work as well, because it was a huge part of my healing. I had this release of years and years and years of frustrations and anger and sadness and so many different things. That was just a point of, just felt this lightness to me, this freedom. It was like we always call it the backpack of bullshit. We're all born with this backpack, and we fill it up with our bullshit from the day we're born. And my backpack was overflowing, and I know a lot of people's are. And this just let me let go of it. At the time, I probably wasn't 100% aware of what it was, but it was just this release, and there was tears, and there was joy, and there was everything. And it was just that moment there. I was like, that was a huge point. There's so many other little pivotal moments along the way, and I will share this with you. There's a huge moment of sitting in the bottom of a shower one morning. This is the closest I came to possibly leaving this earth. I was sitting in the bottom of the shower. It was a alcohol-fueled night the night before, arguing with the wife, sitting at the bottom of the shower. I hadn't told her about any of my ideation or anything. She came into the shower, and I'm sure she was well aware. And I said to her, I'm just trying to convince myself of the reasons to stay here. And she gave me the deepest form of love that anyone has ever given me. And it was the best thing I've ever heard. And it was, nobody's coming. No, nobody's fucking coming were the exact words. At the time, I hated it because all I wanted was to feel love, not knowing that was the best piece of love she could give me. And then she's like, I can ride this with you, but I can't ride it for you. And then it was 2 or 3 days later, I was just getting some breakfast for the boys, and it just hit me. I was just like, so nobody is coming. No, I actually have to do this for myself. I have to hold myself accountable for all the choices that I've made in my life. Stop doing this, stop pointing the finger, and start doing this, and then just move on with it, deal with it, like learn to let go of that past version of myself, and become this person that I know I can be, I know I should be the person that I want my children to be like in the future. And that is a hugely defining moment for me right there. So
that's powerful, man. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I think
welcome.
something very transformational happens is when we both look at the light and the dark. Well, we see the dark and we look into it, and we actually, I think the work of Richard Rudd says that if you deny the shadow, you deny the gift.
Yes.
Gene Keys, he says, if you don't look into your shadow, you actually deny yourself the wonderful gift that you're being given. And I think there's something wonderful that happens when we start to be able to integrate that. I think, particularly with my time at the police, it's always like, put your best foot forward, be a good boy, perform, comply, and don't do anything out of the norm. And it's like most people are cutting half of themselves off. They're trying to suppress all the flaws, the weaknesses, the quirks to be this bit that they think is wanted. And that isn't belonging. Like that's like cutting half yourself off to fit in. Do you know what I mean? And I think something powerful's happened in my journey when I've looked into those weaknesses and gone, bless. I know where they come from. Like big heart means well. cares, takes shit personally far too much. Like, the more I've looked into my flaws and weaknesses, I just see that they're two sides of the same coin. If I deny my weaknesses, I deny my strengths, and I think there's something powerful when a man can look at that side of himself, which he's, whether he's been convinced by himself or other people that's like worthless or harmful or don't be like this, don't be like that, and you go, oh wow, like I wouldn't change any of it. And there's something quite
Uh,
healing when you can integrate that.
it's hugely powerful too. Like for a long time, that moment in the bottom of the shower, there was a lot of guilt and shame, and I didn't want to be that person or be known as that person because
Mm,
that societal belief or that societal programming of that's a weak person, especially for men, that's a weak person that doesn't want to be
mm,
here. That's one of my most proudest moments because I know the strength it takes to pull yourself out of that hole.
mm,
I love that moment, which allows me to completely love myself now. Because and
mm.
I'm sure you have spoken to a lot of people too. I do have a lot of men, women, and couples that we work with that don't like or hate these
Yeah.
past versions or choices that they've made,
Mm,
and I get excited for the time where they're like, oh, I'm so proud of those moments. I'm so happy that happened for us because they've actually got us here. And I tell them, until you learn to love those parts,
mm,
those challenges, those times, those choices, you will not fully love yourself right now.
mm.
That is a key to self love is loving every single version
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
person that you've been. So yeah.
And that's it. And we've got many out there in the social world trying to do self-love practices like bubble baths and stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, I love a daytime bath, right? But
Yeah.
sometimes, but sometimes self-love is actually just a little bit less rejection, a little bit more self-acceptance. Do you know what I mean? Is we don't have to go and do these grand things for ourselves. Just maybe just let go of some of that stuff that we've held on that's no longer us anymore.
Self love, accountability. That's a deep form of self love. Hold yourself
Hmm.
accountable for the things that aren't going right in your life, you know, or the choices that you've made that have led you to places you
Yeah.
may not want to be. That's self love. That the what you've said, that's self love too. But the deepest form of self love is that
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
tough love. Yeah.
100%. Because who you become will be grateful for that.
Oh, hugely,
Yeah, what a
hugely.
gift. What a gift. Like the gift of
Mm,
possibility, the gift of new creation, the gift of potential. Like that's real, like what we're talking about.
100%, 100%.
Yeah, you talk a lot about like the divine self, the integration of both masculine and feminine. I grew up single parent, my mum, and I think I have been very much in touch with my feminine. I've got really soft hands, I'm really compassionate. Do you know what I mean? I've never done a hard day's work. I don't know how to use a drill, but very, very good with people, very empathetic, very
Yep.
compassionate. So I think my feminine was far more developed than my I've had to learn what it means to be healthy masculine, right? I've had to learn,
Mhm.
and the more and more I dive into that sort of things, the more and more it expresses itself that you only learn that through other men. Like I had a single mum who probably did a lot of masculine things, or got shit done, never complained, but was probably from a hardened feminine perspective.
Mm.
I've had to learn what it
So
looks like to be healthy. What's your perspective?
yeah, so uh, there is a lot of talk uh, in this type of space about the masculine and feminine energies. Everyone has them. You
Mm,
have masculine and feminine within you, and together in the center is the divine. Parenting is
yeah.
masculine energy.
Mm,
Parenting. So your mum would have been in her masculine for most of your life. So
mm,
you've been
mm,
shown a version of that masculine energy. And and the type of person that you are, I can
mm,
tell that was a healthy masculine energy that she provided or she showed or modeled to you. It's the mothering. So there's a difference between parenting and mothering. The
mm,
mothering, that's the feminine, the love, the nurture.
mm.
That's that beautiful feminine side, which you have, which we all have. And my my belief on a healthy masculine like I think there's a lack of healthy masculine, or there's just not there's a lack of masculinity today, healthy masculinity, whether it be from a female or a male.
Mm, mm,
I think biologically,
mhm.
men are more designed to be in their masculine because it's the providing, the protecting, I'm not going to say saving because no one needs to be saved, but providing,
Sure.
the protecting, the love in that side. And a lot of people view masculinity from the old school masculinity mindset, the days of wooden ships and iron men, which where my dad, that's the era that he was from, and it's only 60 years
Mm,
ago, so
wow.
it's not that far ago. Though the way we were parented, the way our parents parented us, doesn't work for us to how we parent in today, because the world is so very different. And that goes the same as masculinity. Everyone wants us to be like this old school masculinity where we're out and slogging away. And yes, we get to work to provide, though it gets to look so very different. Being a man, being masculine, those old school masculinity mindsets, I think that's their relics. The value of being a man, so those values of the masculine energy, the providing, protecting, all of those values still get to come across today. So for a time, my wife, she was the major breadwinner, so I got to be the dad and be with my two boys for a lot of the time. And that was a beautiful thing. Though for my wife to be able to go out and create and do what she needed to do, I still had to provide and protect. I had to provide her with the love she needed to go out, protect her from all elements, and help her feel safe and supported that she could do that. So there's still, even though I wasn't in the traditional masculine job, which I had spent 20 years building previously, so I'm well aware of what that's like, though I still got to bring those masculine values to provide that space and safety for my wife to do what she needed to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. You said no, people aren't lost, and I truly believe that. I think that's that's one of the dichotomies. I think if it's Paulo Coelho's book, I can't remember which one it is, but it's almost like it goes on this journey only to find that it was already within. And not to spoiler alert one of his books, go read it, but it's The Alchemist. But there are many people that get to a place where their mindset at least tells them, "I'm stuck. I don't know what to do." And like, there are many people I know that will be listening that are in a certain spot, whether that be in their health, their fitness, their relationships, their work, their business. Their life is not an expression of who they truly want to be. What's your invitation to those people?
If they're struggling to find their, like I say, so many people want to find their purpose, and I make complete sense of it. I've been fortunate enough to find mine, though I had to find purpose in me first. So to the people that may be struggling with what they want to do, where they want to go, or finding themselves, make yourself your purpose. Just do everything you can for yourself to uncover everything that is about yourself. Find more about yourself. Sign up for the self-development classes. Get a mentor. Do the breath work. Do the ice baths. Just go head first into discovering yourself. Make yourself your purpose, and your purpose will find you.
Yeah. Fancy an ice bath. Those things are horrible to start with. I take it you ice bath, you do them.
Yeah, I don't. My sound's just gone off, so
all good.
You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear, mate.
Cool. My pods just must have died, so that's okay. I don't like ice baths. I really
like
don't.
the after feeling. I like the after feeling.
The after feeling is great. For me, it was because I did lots of ice baths growing up playing football.
Yeah.
It's not so much the physical benefits for me; it's the mind over matter benefits. We do so much work with people and getting them in their body, because everyone's out of their body, in their head. So we want to work with people, get them in their body, into their feeling, and we do that, and then we get them into the ice. So they're going to feel that, and it's about disconnecting their mind from their body while still being in their body.
Sure.
It's a huge tool for us, because the ice will also bring up trauma. In the way that we use them and the way that we build up to them. We use them in our workshops, and it's a way of helping people there's a lot of sad, especially for the women, when they jump in the ice, there's a lot of sadness that comes up, and it's a great way for us to unlock a few things. Though it's a great tool because they're able to work through that feeling, that emotion in the ice, and that's it. It's such a powerful modality for people to realize that they can actually work through, control their emotion while feeling it at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, the audience will be familiar with this idea that trauma is stored in the body, but it's not a well-known conventional thing that, in the modern world. But it's powerful. I was hearing you talk before about having a lower back pain sciatic. That was my story. I thought it was just a rugby injury. I thought the fact is I saved a try. Big guy, twice my size, sat on me, and I thought, no wonder I have a back problem. But the years and years later, you think, oh, maybe there was a weakness that was already there. Maybe there was an emotional underlying reason for that already being there. What's your experience of that?
Well, personally, yeah, I started having lower back problems when I was about 17, and similar thing,
Mm.
squatting, putting on weight a lot quickly, and had the X-rays and the MRI scans to go, yep, you've got protruding discs and all that type of thing. So yes, there was a physical injury, but there was also a physiological injury as well. I kept on having lower back, sciatic nerve problems, and then I was able to do the work that I'm doing and release the emotion that was attached to that. And I haven't had a lower back problem since. So I knew that I was holding on to a lot of, or what I know now is I was holding on to a lot of anger there in and around my family. Letting that go, haven't had an issue since. And we can't unsee what we've seen when it comes to those physical injuries. I've had men that have come into the men's retreat and have had Achilles heel problems for their whole life and can't do any cardio or run, or they walk at work all day and then they're up on their feet after work, and come to these retreats, have their release, move through their pain and sadness and anger. And the man I'm talking to now gets to run 10Ks 3 days a week.
Yeah.
When it's been 15 years since he's been able to do that. So there's the body keeps score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild, isn't it? It's wild.
It is wild. It is. And there's science and data all the time with this now too. There's actually data behind for generational trauma passed on through DNA or energy. So there's actual, we've known this for a long time, and I'm sure there has been some science behind it, but there's more science coming behind it now, which is great, which backs up what we do a little more, and it's making it more believable, I will say, for people to go, oh, like my great grandfather was in World War II, and I'm having all these dreams about World War II. What's going on? So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's just junk DNA. We don't know what that's doing. Basically, what they're saying is we have no idea what this is doing. Is it possible that there's so much stuff that we don't know yet? No.
Yeah, look, I think it's more the why. People they need a reason as to why it's passed on. We just need to make sense that, yes, it's passed on, and we get to let go of it through us. We get to be that defining factor in our generation. It stops here with us. So my children and my grandchildren don't need to deal with it. They can deal with their own issues and not have to worry about mine and my parents and my grandparents as well.
Yeah, you talk about warrior. Do you believe in spiritual warfare?
Yes.
Yeah. I was thinking about that voice in your head as a young child. Like what a spiritual warfare to hear at such a young age that you are better off not here. And I truly believe that those attacks come to people with the biggest purpose, like those who are destined to go on to make an impact with the biggest people. We need to get them off this planet. If the enemy has a strategy and a tactic, it's to prevent that light from coming to the world. I truly believe that darkness isn't an entity, because the presence of light will just in a room cast out the darkness, right?
Yeah.
The only way I think the darkness can prevail is to stop the light from coming to begin with. So to put like an identity on you, to put oh man, what an attack that is, but to come through it and now be the light and use that as what a gift, man. Like what a gift. Anointed.
Appreciate that. Yeah. I think ever since I can remember, I knew I was meant for something. I didn't know at the time, but there was always something missing. And I think through a lot of my life, the things that I went into, whether it be work or sport, I was a leader for the things that I was doing. I wasn't leading where I was supposed to be leading at the time. So, I haven't heard it put that way, and I really liked that the way you made that. And yeah, I 100% agree with it. So it's been quite the journey, one that I'm really proud of. And yes, the spiritual journey has been one of my most favorite.
One of the because all the masculine archetypes, I read recently about the sage, how the sage is able to give wise counsel because they're pulling from this reservoir of self-discovery. And I think the powerful thing, like you and I are having, is that we've put ourselves through these situations. So anybody that comes to us with a voice or something like that that's telling them something, you have something that is actually a lived experience. It's not like a hypothetical. We're not reveling in ideas. We're coming from a reservoir of self-discovery, and I think that just hits so differently.
It does. It's not as if we've gone out and done all these courses and programs and gained all
Yeah,
this
yeah,
certificate
yeah,
of
yeah.
knowledge because we wanted to help people. We did it for ourselves first
Yeah, yeah.
and discovered along the way that this is what we want to give to people. Like I truly believe, for me at the moment, the meaning of life is to find your gift, and then the purpose of life is to give it away.
Amen. Yes, sir.
I wholeheartedly believe that, and that's what I'm doing, and my wife's doing. That's what everyone in this kind of space is doing. I love what I do, and I will do it to the day I'm no longer here. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that, and I also believe that that is almost like a frequency, which in this world we can express it however we like decide to express it. I'll give an example. I love to create new possibilities for people, love to help people, and I can do that in a podcast. I could do that in coaching. I can do that as my kids' football coach. I could do that in a variety of different ways. I could do that via dad jokes. I could do it any way I choose to express it. That's the freedom I then have. Once I know what it is, once I know what sword I have, I can wield it in any particular way that I choose to.
yeah. Oh,
Wait,
hugely, yeah.
yeah, go on.
Go on. Yeah, you go.
Yeah, I like, and I think I do you know what? It's really interesting, isn't it? Because we live in a world that it has people like Jocko Willink, it has people like David Goggins, it has great archetypes that are very like Jordan Peterson, very intellectual, very mindset based. And I think anyone that's talking about heart is, pioneering probably timeless wisdom, but it is different, it's counterculture. And I just love to know what gives you and your wife the conviction to be heart led. Why not stoic minds? Where like heart? Why is that the essence of what you talk about?
Because I believe a stoic mind is heart led.
Mm, yeah, true.
If and I speak about the stoic a little bit
Mhm.
on my in my Compass platform, and because a lot of people always mention about how Stoics don't let them they if you're Stoic you won't feel emotions, you block that. Couldn't be further from the truth.
Mhm.
If you go back and read into the Stoics, they're all about feeling the emotion, controlling
Mm,
it, not letting it control you.
mm,
When we put like pushing the emotion down or pushing whatever it is that we want to push down, that's not controlling it, that's blocking it. So um, I truly believe that the Stoic mindset is a heart-led mindset as well.
mm,
And for my wife and I to do this, it's because of what we did for ourselves.
mhm.
We had so much love, like in a societal view, we shouldn't be together anymore of what we went through as a
Yeah.
couple.
Mhm.
Society would say, wait, what? And we had people and family, not family, but friends of ours going, oh, just separate now to be easier for the kids.
Mhm.
What's going to be easier for the kids? Us not being together. So we
Yeah.
knew that we had this love for each other, and that's what kept us together. So
Yeah.
that feeling of love for each other, feeling of love for self, and that's where the heart-led theme has come from, because we did it for love,
Mm.
did it through the feeling of love, and that's why everything we do is based on that feeling of love.
I'm with you, man. I did not get wise counsel back in 2019. My people that were giving me counsel will say, "Hey, do what makes you happy. You need to be happy. Happy dad, happy kids." And it nearly took
Mm.
me away from the very thing I was irreplaceable from, which is the father in the home. It's wild the cultural counsel that we'll receive these days. So, having a
Huge.
group of
And I was going to say on that, do what makes you happy. And you thought because society has shown you, oh, I'm going to be happier without them. I know, I can tell by looking at you that wouldn't have made you happier.
No.
So yeah, and I'm all about, yes, do what makes you happy, but do what makes you happy to fill your cup so you can be the best version of yourself for those children and for the partner. And
just to fill in the gaps for the audience listening, like I had a genuine belief that I needed to be more loved and appreciated for certain things. And turns out I put the responsibility on that for somebody else. And when it didn't come, it was like, well, I deserve this, so therefore I'll go get it. I'll go and find it in the world. And little, did I know the lesson I had to learn was to become that which I sought. Do not make anyone else responsible for the source of that. Give it to yourself first. Come to the relationship whole.
You should not be relying on an external source to make you happy.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a relationship to gain love for yourself, the relationship's not going to go well.
No.
Love yourself and then be in a relationship to add to your happiness, to add to your joy, to add to your love. Took me, look, I had to figure that out.
Yeah.
The hard way or the long way as well. And so many people do. And so many people do. But then when you have that realization of, oh, it's because I don't love myself. You're just like, and it's actually a really easy fix in the end.
Yeah. My coach said to me yesterday, he said that the most stubborn of us in this universe, the universe loves us so much that it's going to give us the experience, right? And if we're too stubborn to embrace it, well, the universe will just say, you really need that. You've told me that you really want this experience, so I'm going to increase the intensity. So it's like, wake up. And like me and my wife were laughing about that this morning because, we had some intense experience because we were so damn stubborn to not to take in the lessons.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I'm just thinking back on past situations now, and I'm like, yeah, we were both very stubborn to be in the situation that we're in. Though again, that true strength of love coming through, it's got us to where we are now. And it's something that we say all the time. Those darkest moments are actually where the diamonds are. So
yeah. I think, the timeless wisdom from a book from 2000 years old says that no greater gift is man than to lay down his life for those that he loves. And I think when we're talking about healthy masculinity, that is a wonderful byproduct. Like if you equip a man, connect a man to his heart and what he loves, he'll run through brick walls. He'll lay down his life. And unfortunately, in this modern world, we don't literally have to sacrifice ourselves. We don't literally have to jump in front of bullets to save. But I think that's the power of connecting a man with his heart. And I guess you've had many people come to your retreats, probably apprehensive and nervous about what does it mean? What do you think are some of the barriers to men uncracking this vault of the heart?
Fear. Number one, fear. And it's again, that societal programming of, unfortunately, men don't need to show their emotion, and we get told from such a young age, harden up, all of that stuff. We've all heard it, and we know that that's just a recipe for disaster. Because I mean, look at the younger generation today, the young men, 10, 11, 16, that have been told this by their parents, their fathers, I'll say. And it's no one's fault, because it's just what we've been showed along the way as well. Though it's that, don't do this, don't do that. They've bottled all these emotions up, whether it be anger, sadness, and we're not letting them feel it. And they have these explosions, and then they get labeled with, you've got anger problems, you've got ADHD, you've got ADD. And it's because, and I'm not saying that that doesn't exist, though it'd go a long way to help these diagnoses if we were showing our children, men, boys and girls, of how to feel their emotions, how to manage their emotions, instead of having these explosions of anger and sadness at times, because we've told them to settle down or don't get upset over that. That's nothing to get upset over. Though how are we like, it's really unfair of people to say things like that to a child. Don't get up, a pet bird dies. It's only a bird, don't worry about it. That's their first lesson or model of grief. And I've worked with people, and we do a lot of unconscious mind work around all the emotions, and grief is a huge one. And they'll go back to a memory of when they're 3 years old and their pet dog died, and they weren't allowed or weren't shown how to grieve, or weren't given the opportunity to grieve.
Yeah.
And that's how they've been taught how to grieve, just to block it all out. So it's insane.
It is, yeah, it is, and it's funny, isn't it? Because that's our own as a parent, or whoever's in that leadership position in that moment, is their own ability to sit with that feeling, their own inability. I was fortunate enough to interview a wonderful guy called Dr. Gordon Neufeld, who wrote a book called Hold On to Your Kids with Gabor Mate, and in it he says that if you're conditioned out of vulnerability, anyone that displays that vulnerability becomes the enemy. It's almost the presence of that vulnerability, that thing that I have been told is not safe for me to do or express. I have to attack it, which is the source of bullying.
Yes.
Bullying is just, you represent something I've been told I'm not allowed to be, and therefore I'm going to get rid of that. It's wild, but we just don't have that conscious awareness that that's what's going on.
And I say it, and I know that you would have heard this: true strength lies in vulnerability.
Mm.
Now, I have one of my best friend, my best mate. He's a 6'4" Maori, and he's a heart-led man. He's a heart-led warrior. He's one of our facilitators. Comes from a very, very violent upbringing back in NZ, and I get, and I'm sure I get a lot of comments on our reels and things that we share, but oh, that's not what a real man does. Real men don't cry. I guarantee you, if you were to be in the presence of this man and myself, of this
Yeah,
man, Ray is his name, is a beautiful man. Again, 6'4", 110 kilos, athletic as anything.
yeah,
And I just tell me that he's not being a man.
yeah.
Like, just tell me, if you're brave enough and you believe that he's not really a man because he shows emotion, say it to come and see and feel it for yourself, because I guarantee you will feel something completely different.
Mm.
And it comes from fear.
Yeah, so it comes down to the beliefs and the identity and the programming and all of, and yeah, man. And I think the most powerful thing we can do is get an experience. So exactly what you
Yes.
say, come to a retreat, come to a conversation, come to the presence of men. Like, I imagine, like, do you know what? I get really, like, choked up by these funeral processions for people when they're doing like a group haka.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh man, like that gets me. Like, it's a real masculine presence, and yet tears streaming from the art. It's like, oh man, nothing gets me more than, like, and the videos as well that you guys share. Like, well, like, just is a power. There's an absolute power that you can feel through a screen. Like, hats off to your social media team, man. Like, I
Thank
mean,
you.
that's how I found. That's how I found you. A friend of mine shared
Yeah.
it. I was just like, I need to talk to this guy.
There's so much power in social media if it's used with intent.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a fantastic tool. Again, they used with intent. Fill it with things that are going to be positive in your life. And if it's something that you share or I share that someone sees that gets that conversation starting for them, then that's perfect. I know that I know that through what we share on social media has helped men and women come to one of our retreats or come into one of our group programs, and they've actually been able to save their lives because of it, from what they see from others. So we also get a lot of people like, oh, you shouldn't be sharing this stuff. We have complete, everyone signs and
Yeah.
says they're happy for us to share whatever they need to share, because what they've seen someone share on social media that's got them to that. There's so much power in sharing on what we do. And if someone doesn't want to share their journey, we don't share it. It's simple. Though we've had people come in and go, I'm not sure if I want to share parts of me. And at the end of it, they like, share it all. This has been the greatest experience of my life. Share it. I want other people to do this and feel how I'm feeling. So there's a turning point for some people that may feel a little uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but it's, and I speak about it straight away. I'm like, the videographer's there. I'm like, hey, we're filming. We'll never share your personal journeys online, though we're going to share the emotion and the feeling and what you're going through. And I remind them that you're here because you've seen someone do the same. Someone may relate to what you're doing or what they see, or feel some emotion from you, and it may get them here or on another retreat or into some self-development work. And you may save their life by choosing yourself. That's a hugely powerful ripple effect, because I chose myself. I'm talking about me here. I've been able to help men choose themselves and change their lives.
Mm.
So I don't do anything. I give them the tools. They do it all. I've just been able to do this for myself, and then I share it. So
Love that. I am going to challenge you a little bit because I'm looking at your content from the perspective of being a facilitator, right? So I'm looking at you and your colleagues, and I'm thinking that's not by accident. That doesn't happen by accident. The environment you must curate, like the safety, the trust, like you've just downplayed that far too much, my friend. I know, but you have to be a master in creating that container. Like, what goes through your mind? Do you have to get yourself spirit right? Like, how do you get yourself into that state and spirit where you are able to foster that environment, man? Because it doesn't happen by accident.
I really appreciate that. It's changed so much from the beginning. So between the men's, women's, couples, and workshops now, we've hosted nearly 30 retreats in the last couple of years, which is phenomenal. To begin with, and this is like when I was unlocking more of my gifts, my intuition, all of that stuff, I'd be in the gym the day before or the week before, I'd be in tears.
Yeah.
I just feel like, and I'm like, I don't know what, and I'd ask myself the question, what are you upset about? And it wasn't me.
Yeah.
And I know that you would know about energetics, and it's because I'm in contact with all the men and women and couples that come onto our work. So I'm energetically connected and I'm feeling all their feelings. I know I make sense of that now. But at the time, I was like, what's going on? Why am I so emotional? And now it's got to the point where I can feel that emotion come in, and depending on how deep you want to go, I actually there's moments of the retreat that I see that actually happen in my mind before they happen. So I'm able
Wow,
to
prophetic. Come
protect
on.
myself. Trust is every human being's number one value, whether you like to believe it or not. If we don't feel safe, or safety is the number one value. If we don't feel safe, we're not going to open up. So it is that is our number one. For people to be able to do what they need to do for themselves at our retreats, there has to be a level of safety. And that comes with the contact we have with the people prior. Like once someone is in our world, whatever they sign up, we're in constant contact. I'm always voice messaging. I'm always like, it's why I jump on podcasts. I go live every Monday night. I share as much as what I can about me for that relatability piece, and share my story, because there's a relatability to that. And there's a safety in that. So if there's trust there and safety there, then they're going to be able to do what we're going to do, because literally it's 49 hours that they're in our presence.
Wow.
And that isn't a very long time. And a lot of the first release is within the first hour.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that we do before that happens to gain safety, to gain trust. So yeah, it is. It starts months before. Like our retreats for March next year, I think I'm at 60% capacity for the men's, which is amazing this far out. So I'm already energetically connected there with a lot of the men, and I've heard a lot of their stories. So it starts so much longer before the actual retreat starts, and learning to. It can, like, I truly believe it takes a special person to do this work. I truly believe my purpose is to do this work. I'm built for this work. I've learned how to move that energy through me. I don't let myself hold on to it. And that's through learning and doing it along the way. And it just so happened that I was able to learn it really quickly.
I once heard a phrase. So when my iPhone puts my music onto, when I get in a car and it's like, oh, 20,000 songs now put into random, I pay attention. I'm like, okay, Divine, what do you want to be telling me? And it was a Eric Thomas. He was doing some public speaking, and he basically said this. He says, for some of you in this room, your talent will take you places your character cannot sustain you. And it just became a great one-liner for me that just thought, wow, like so much of this is about experience so that we can build the character to sustain the level of success. Like if you and I got like big and famous in our 20s, like I'm not sure I had the character to sustain that. I would have taken advantage of all the worldly gifts and pleasures, and I wouldn't have been able to sustain the true things that are important to me in my lifetime. So I think it's really powerful as to what you've just said. Like, you're getting the reps in because you're building the character to sustain that level of, you're supporting all those men that are coming through your door and their partners.
Yeah. Yep. And it's an absolute privilege to be able to discover my gift, to be able to share. Like, it's a true like I've got a fantastic support network. My wife Ray, and we are so close, and we do get to talk about all of the things, and we always have breakdowns after events and things like that to see how everyone's feeling. Connect to self, always come back to self. I always give that myself the space and time to whatever needs to move through me. I get to move through. I'm pretty good with it now where it happens on the spot, but there are definitely instances where something may hang on, but I'm so well aware of that now. I get to move it away. And what you were just saying about songs then just brought something to mind. On part of my journey, I was discovering part of my team, and I kept on having this presence of an Aboriginal man, an Australian Aboriginal man, come up, and he's always there. And every time he'd have this presence, I'd look down at my phone, and there's Kings of Leon's one of my favorite bands, and one of their songs would come up on their screen called "Me Amigo." I have never listened to that song in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who's listened to this? And every time he would appear, because I'd always ask, I'm like, are you here for me? What is your name? What message do you have for me? And every time I'd ask his name, I'd look down at my phone, and this "Me Amigo" would come up. It's like, what's here? And then discovering further, even though he's an Australian Indigenous man, his name to me is Me Amigo.
Yeah. He's your friend.
The universe gets to show up in so many different ways.
Yeah, do you know what? If people listen to that and get right, these guys are batshit crazy, go and get an experience. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if I was sat here listening to us like 5 years ago, I'd be like, what are these guys talking about? Like, I was beyond surrender to anything, higher power. Not a chance. I was work my face off, grind, make stuff happen until the point that worked, until the point it didn't. And then I had to surrender to something higher. And when you make space for that, well, it's like, okay, now I've got your attention. I'm going to show off, and I will now that you're open to the divine messages, you shall be able to perceive them. You said a word earlier called compass. Talk to us about this container compass.
Compass is an online platform that I've created. It's been released for about 3 months.
Yeah.
It is an online platform full of so many different things for men. Because I make complete sense of not everyone has the timing to come into a retreat or a 6-week program or a 12-week mentorship. Whether that be finances or time. There's a lot of reasons as to why. I wanted to create something that gave every person an opportunity to at least do something for themselves at a very low cost. I've got free men's Facebook group that everyone can come into if they're not ready for something else, but it just gives them a step into our world. And Compass is, again, an online platform. It will be an app soon. And it's got all of my breathworks, all of my meditations, all of my e-guides, all of my podcasts and playlists. And I think currently there's about 150 pieces of content in there. And I add to that every month. Soon in the coming months, I'll have it at around 500 pieces of content. It is the A to Z of self-development. One of the things that I found was difficult was I was going to YouTube or this app and that app to find a meditation that I wanted or a breathwork that I wanted. I just wanted the one-stop shop, and that's why I have done this, because it's all there.
Nice.
Breathworks, meditations. I also do a live Q&A via Zoom every month, second Thursday, which is this Thursday night. So I get to, all the men that are in the community, they get to come on. We usually have a topic that I'll discuss and Q&A and have that feeling or connection with me as well. And it just gives that, it's another way for men to build that trust for what we do as well. So it's something that I worked extremely hard on, something that I'm continually to work hard on, something that I'm really proud of too. And for $49 AUD a month, it's really achievable for everyone.
Yeah.
And there's just no excuses anywhere. Even if you only come into the free Facebook group, there's support and insight in there. I was talking about this on my stories the other day. I got a lot of people reach out about the men's retreat. It is a $3,500 investment. That includes the retreat, your food, your accommodation, but most importantly, it actually includes our post-retreat support. So we don't just send you off after the retreat, but there's a post-retreat call with all the men. Then you go into a private group from your retreat that stays open forever, that has all the facilitators, all the men in it. So there's continued support after that. A lot of people, yes, cost of living at the moment's crazy for a lot of people, and financially it may not be achievable, even with the really flexible payment plans, and I make sense of that, and that's okay. Though a lot of people just stop there. They're like, oh, I don't get that. I'm just not going to do anything. So because you can't do one thing, you're not going to pivot and continue to try and do something for yourself. Like, you've stopped and you're still not gonna go and work on yourself. And so, and I get it, because I was a person like that in the past. So now I'm like, I'm welcoming these blocks, or these, again, it's trusting the process, right? Or trusting what the universe has installed. There's a block, or there's a pivot point. So I'm going to pivot and still find something I can do to get me closer to that point. So it was about creating an opportunity, no matter where you're at in your journey, to have access to us, no matter the costs or investment for you. So
true
that
purpose.
was having something, and compass, home's your true north. Compass, you are your own compass. You are your own leader. You will be able to lead yourself back to yourself. So that's why compass is that name.
Yeah, love that. And I love the values behind that, because that is true testament to the fact that you're not creating a following, but you pointing people back to their own true leadership, their own true self. And that's really powerful. And that's something that I really think separates those in the social media space, where, you know, you can see many people use a platform to suck the light out of other people, you know. And I think what you're doing, and what, you know, and many great people are doing, is that actually we're going to point you to the source of your own light, point you to the source of your own compass, which is powerful. I'll include all your good links in the show notes. One of the words I have here, I always put in yesterday, it's called Heartprint, and we've already touched on it a little bit, which is like this ripple effect of possibility, this impact that we have in other people's lives. Dane, I just wonder if you take a moment just to maybe pre-reflect on the end of your days. What do you hope your Heartprint will be, whether that be your business and your parenting, your relationships? What do you hope that your Heartprint will be?
I just got really emotional, man. Thank you. Wow, I actually haven't been asked that question before. That's a fantastic question, and it's got me a little stumped. What do I wish? Honestly, it's really simple. I just wish that, I know that a lot of people say that in 2 generations, most people are going to be forgotten once they pass. And I'm okay with that. Though I want that time for me, for people to still be feeling or experiencing what I've created for themselves. It's not for me, it's for them. So in those 2 generations after that I'm gone, I still want Heartled Warriors to be providing and creating this community and this feeling for everyone. That and I just want to die happy. And I know die happy, a heart full of love and joy. And honestly, I know that that's going to happen for me. So yeah.
I love that, brother. One of the things I hold dear to my heart is that the true beneficiaries of our work are not our clients. It's everybody our client comes into contact with. And man, your ripple effect is huge already. I just hope that you and your colleagues get the opportunity to experience one of those waves that come back your way, because I promise you now that with every... How many people come to your retreats?
We have about 20.
20. That's 20 people with hundreds and hundreds of daily connections. Like, that is a supreme ripple effect. May that continue. May your work continue to be blessed, and you know, and yeah, just grateful for you, all your heart, your work that you're doing, and yeah, man, just be honored if you leave us a final thought from your good self.
Firstly, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on this platform that you have, and thank you for providing a platform where it shares this type of work, whether it be myself or whoever else you've had on. So thank you for that. It's truly appreciated. Final word. I'm excited for the day that anyone that's listening to this that realizes that it's all you and it will only ever be you.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, mate.
Hey my friends, thank you for making it to the end. I hope that our time spent together today has left you a little bit better than before you push play. I'd really appreciate if you just took a moment to leave a review to allow me to meet more people where they are and hopefully leave them a little bit better too. If you're curious to know how I, through Always Better Than Yesterday, can serve you, your team, your organisation, then head to alwaysbetterthanyesterday.com to connect. And while you're there, let me know one or two things that you're going to do as a result of listening to this conversation. I absolutely love hearing your thoughts, your reflections, and the things that this spark in your own heart and mind. If you want more insights from my heart and mind, I do send out short episodes on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, and again, I hope that they serve you well. I appreciate you listening. I'm Ryan Hartley, host of the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast, a podcast for heart-centered leaders just like you. Keep leading, my friends. Always love.